which of the big four, which is Alabama, Miami, Clemson, and Florida, of those big four games, which is the most winnable? Miami, right?
Miami, because it's here. Yeah.
Because it's here, and might you get bad Carson Beck?
And Mario's coaching.
That's the biggest one. It's that Mario can find a way to really screw that up. He just did a year ago. He had the number one pick in the draft at the most important position on the field, and they couldn't even make the ACC championship game.
And they really probably should have lost 5 football games.
Yeah. Well, yes, especially that was it the Virginia Tech
game?
Tech that was the one, yeah. So, but I would just say that, yeah, that holds – you hold out hope for that. It's not the Clemson game on the road, probably not the Florida game on the road, and I don't think it's the Alabama game. So it's Miami.
I think Alabama – is gettable in the sense that you don't know who their quarterback is, and it's not like that program is just drained in confidence, drenched in confidence. I mean, Nick Saban's not their coach, and they weren't all that good last year, and they didn't finish out well last year. So they shouldn't be. I mean, I'm sure they'll be a top 10 team, but you just don't know what Alabama is anymore.
No, that's fair.
It's a winnable game. I think that's more winnable, obviously, than Clemson.
And I do think what Florida State's going to do offensively is, especially because this is the first game with this new system on both sides of the ball, and both of these systems are not going to be identical. It's not like Gus Malzahn has run the exact same offense every year. He does tailor to his personnel to some degree, and certainly Tony White does. So, Alabama's going to be kind of learning on the fly a little bit which is probably a big part of the reason why spring practice was closed.
Yeah, man, you just can't get blown out. It'd be great if you pulled the upset. We all had this conversation a week ago on the show where we said basically we thought the Alabama game was more important than the Clemson game, in the sense that if you could win it, it changes the outlook on the entire season. Also, fresh off of 2-10, you'd be sending a very different message to the rest of college football. The way you would be discussed at that point moving forward would change the way you're perceived in college football. A lot of things would happen if you upset Alabama in that game, because even though Alabama lost 4 times last year, they're still Alabama. They're still a team with a lot of talent. We do know that. And they're obviously a double-digit favorite in that game. So that'd be a big-time upset, and it would help change the way you're viewed and perhaps infuse you with some confidence that you certainly have to be lacking until you have some success.
When Corey brings up their quarterback questions, which is legitimate, but anything you point to in that game could be a positive for Florida State. Obviously, there's something else you could point to the other side. I mean, they also are going to have Kalen DeBoer is going to have his offensive coordinator back, the guy he had all the success with in Washington. So, he didn't have him last year. So that's something that, even though the quarterback's a little questionable, we'll see. That's a big plus in their side.
Does it change your viewpoints at all with the 2 Gavins now on the team?
One of the Gavins does, maybe a little bit.
I like Sawchuk as perhaps being the starting running back. Seems like he would likely be the starting running back. Ira and I talked about that in the first segment, Corey. I don't, I said that, and somebody emailed me. We're like, why do you assume he's going to be the starting running back? I'm like, well, his resume is the best of the bunch. Yeah. I mean, there's nobody else on that group of running backs that has done anything. I know we're bringing in Cromwell, and I think long-term Cromwell's your guy. And from what I understand of Cromwell, he's an elite talent, and we're paying him like one. So they're going to want to play him, but he's a true freshman going against Alabama in his first ever game. I'd probably lean towards the guy that has almost 1,000 yards rushing in his career.
Yeah, and not only that, I think the guy had 5 straight 100-yard games. He was a feature back at the end of 2023. Now, that was also 18 months ago from the time they start this game against Alabama. No idea if he's the same player, but you know that it's in him at least. That's
why would it
positive.
Not be the same player? I mean, he had injuries last year. It's not like he just fell off a cliff and nobody understands why. He just started fumbling. I mean, he was hurt. When he did get to play, he also wasn't the guy, and they decided to go get the kid from Cal. So he's obviously going to be motivated. And the thing I like about him in that Alabama game particularly is, we saw 3 years ago when Florida State played him in that Cheez-It Bowl. The story of that bowl game was how Oklahoma had so many guys out. Their offensive lineman had opted out. The running back had opted out. I think the receiver had opted out. Like, all their big-time guys had opted out, whereas all the Florida State guys were playing because they were all going to be coming back the next year. And so he went into that game, and as a freshman, he'd only played, I think, in one other game.
He was really good in that game.
Did not look any concerned at all about playing that Florida State team. I mean, he ran hard. He was good. And so if that's what he was 2 or 3 years ago, I can only imagine how confident he's going to be in this game. Now, it would have been great if you could have got him in January, but he didn't know they were going to go get that Cal running back. So he probably figured he was going to compete to be the starter at Oklahoma.
I feel like that kid listen, it's not just that he had the 5 straight 100-yard games. It's not just that he was a feature back for Oklahoma who likes to run the football a lot and had success. He played, when you go back and watch those games, and Corey, I know you just mentioned those games. If you go back, I watched a lot of those games. I'm inclined to watch Oklahoma play. He's got a lot of what for to him. He's got, I know Mike referenced this. He can do a little bit of everything. So there's not too many guys. There's nobody on this roster at running back that you could say that about other than him. Nobody.
Yeah, and there's 8 of them, maybe 9 of them. I've lost count at this point. I don't know how many there are. I don't know if Danzy even counts. Is he a receiver? Is he a running back? Is he a track star now?
You better get something out of.
He's a receiver now. But you to figure out a way to use that speed.
But, when we watched that scrimmage, there was nothing exceptional or even good really about any of the running back play we saw, except it was all 4-yard carries and 5-yard carries and 6-yard carries. Well, this guy, again, he might turn a 6-yard run into an 11-yard run or a 25-yard run. Like he had 2 60-yard runs in 2023. And I'm not trying to, badmouth the guys that are on the team, but there's nothing special about that running back room at all. It is absolutely pedestrian. And this kid might be a little bit, I don't think might, is, if he's healthy, is better than anybody you currently have on the roster. And then you hope Cromall maybe ends up even better than him.
Well, I think what Jeff was saying is 100% accurate. Like he's the most complete of a running back. Sam Singleton's got straight ahead speed. Yes. Jalen Lucas is a guy that has that, get him in space. He's going to make plays. But neither of those guys, do you think, based on what we've seen so far, are guys you're going to be wanting to run between the tackles a ton, is a kind of a bell cow running back. Then you've got the Roy Dell Williams and Keziah Holmes, some guys who are maybe bigger backs, more physical, but aren't game-breaking speed type guys. Whereas Sawchuk might have some of all of it. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I discount last year because he wasn't on the field a whole lot and he didn't play I don't think he was healthy when he did play. If you just took him off of what he did 2 years ago, people would be super fired up, I think.
It just makes me sad that you have that many running backs and you still had to go out and get another one. Doesn't mean you didn't need to go get him. Just kind of makes me sad. It is a snapshot again of where you've kind of swung and missed in the past. And I wonder how many of these guys will still be here next year, but doesn't really matter. In the interim, you got to go get somebody, and you get somebody with a lot of experience, which is nice. By the way, I would point out, does it answer your question about the 2 Gavins that we just spent 8 minutes on the 1 Gavin? I think it kind of does.
I think the other Gavin is probably a nice kid. We'll see. I mean, what a story that'll be if you have your first 3 years of college football producing what he's produced and then have a big year at Florida State.
I just like that he's got to have some Belichick stories, some Belichick/girlfriend stories. He saw it up close. That's what if he ever gets to talk to us, that's all I'm going to ask him about.
Have you seen it up close?
Speaking of, so I'm going to the ACC spring meetings in Amelia Island next week, guys.
This is exciting. You do it every year. Every year, I'm infinitely jealous.
It's a good time.
Because Amelia Island's one of my favorite places on earth.
It's a good time. The beach is nice.
Tough assignment.
It's a good deal. Everything is about it's one of the smart things I've done in this career is force my way into covering those.
And now it's yours. None of us can have it. So it's always going to be yours.
Who goes, though, is the ADs. You got the faculty reps from every school. You got the senior women administrators from every school. You got the head football coaches, head basketball coaches, head women's basketball coaches. So Bill Belichick, I think, is going to be there. I'm with his muse.
His artistic muse. Yeah.
That's what he called her.
That's what he called her in the book, Corey.
He called her his muse.
Don't you get?
So they're gonna
stop thrusting your morals upon him. You let this.
So I may be hanging out with Bill. We'll see.
Hang with Bill?
Here's the thing. He'll be in the hotel bar. I bet. The thing is,